Typically, when a movie comes out, the finished product leaves a lot of content on the cutting room floor. But there are sometimes scenes the directors leave in the movie that they probably shouldn't have, much to the annoyance of fans. Of course, everyone has regrets, and while the director likely gave a scene the green light before it left editing, they sometimes come to regret their decision for a number of reasons, of which we're about to explore. I'm Gareth from WhatCulture.com, and here are 8 hated movie scenes directors regret not cutting. Number 8. Close Encounters of the Third Kind should have kept the mothership hidden. Steven Spielberg is the most successful director of all time, and his movies have made more than just about any other. His impressive rise to fame began with Jaws in 1975, and shot sky high with 1977's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That movie cemented his place in the industry, but it was not perfect as far as he was concerned. One of the best aspects of Close Encounters is that the aliens remain obscure for most of the film. It isn't until the end that they are seen in any way, and Spielberg shot one scene which shows the inside of the ship in detail. However, he actually hates that he filmed said sequence, as it destroyed the allure of the alien mystery for the audience, and cut it from the theatrical release. Sadly, the scene was shoehorned into the special edition director's cut released in 1980 by Columbia Pictures, much to the dismay of the director. Ironic, considering that was supposedly a director's cut. It was in a 1997 documentary, The Making of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where Spielberg revealed he should never have shown the inside of the ship. But you do have to say, it did look bloody phenomenal for a time long before high-quality CGI. Number 7. Ryan Coogler wishes he could go back and unkill Claw. The MCU has had its fair share of villains, and some have proven to be exceptional, while others have been far less impressive. Ulysses Claw, though introduced in Avengers Age of Ultron as played by Andy Serkis, is one of the most compelling villains the franchise has produced. His role was significantly increased in the movie Black Panther, where he was shown to be a long-time antagonist to the people of Wakanda. His theft of vibranium made it possible for him to become an international arms dealer. But more than that, he was Killmonger's key to getting inside Wakanda. Unfortunately, being the key was also what got him killed. And after a great standoff between Killmonger and Claw, that's exactly what happened. The scene was arguably necessary for the plot, seeing as it was Claw's corpse that got Killmonger into Wakanda. But that doesn't mean the director was happy about it. When Ryan Coogler spoke about the scene, he noted that he loved the character as much as any fan, but he had to kill him despite not wanting to. Sometimes you just gotta bite the vibranium bullet. Number 6. David F. Sandberg messed up a scene when Janice meets a demon. David F. Sandberg was the director responsible for Annabelle Creation, a prequel to 2014's Annabelle and the 4th installment in the Conjuring Universe franchise. The movie was pretty well made, and it sits as one of the best in the franchise, but there is a part of it the director absolutely loathes. In the scene in question, the recently departed Bea Mullins is standing in front of a window in her room. As the young protagonist makes her way cautiously towards the dead girl, she turns to face her. Her face was then replaced with that of a demon as she screamed out, "Your soul!" That scene was far less than perfect, according to the director, who spoke about his difficulty in making it work. In his words, "If I could redo it, I'd make the makeup creepier and have her not say anything." That one scene aside, Annabelle Creation was an incredibly successful movie. While it was definitely more comical than he would have liked, it didn't detract from many of the scares he executed perfectly in the final movie. Number 5. Will Gluck should have cut the scene in Peter Rabbit involving blackberries. Typically, a children's movie will usually come along and not have any kind of controversy surrounding it, but that's not always the case. Every once in a while, a kid's flick will show up that enrages parents and earns calls of boycotting, which is exactly what happened to 2018's Peter Rabbit. In the film, there's a scene where a group of rabbits attack Mr. McGregor with blackberries. They do this while he's trying to carry on a conversation, and while it's funny, it's also something parents take very seriously because the character was allergic to blackberries. Soon after he's pelted, some make their way into his mouth, and he begins to collapse onto the ground. He manages to pull out an EpiPen which he jabs into his leg, staving off death from anaphylaxis. Parents absolutely hated the scene, as few take the dangers of food allergies lightly. Soon after the film was released, Sony Pictures and the film's director Will Gluck issued an apology stating, "We sincerely regret not being more aware and sensitive to this issue, and we truly apologize." What is it with James Corden films and backlash, eh? Number 4, at the end of Star Wars The Force Awakens, Rey hugged Leia and fans were mad as hell. The Force Awakens introduced the world to a whole new cast of characters in the Star Wars franchise. Finn, BB-8, Poe Dameron, and Rey were established as the new generation fighting against the oppression and darkness of the First Order. It also reintroduced characters who hadn't been seen in decades, including Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Leia Organa. In the film, as you hopefully know by now, Kylo Ren kills Han Solo in a bit of an emotional scene. He falls into a void, Chewie growls in enraged pain, and the movie continues as the good guys manage to destroy the Death Star, killer base. At the end, when Rey steps off the Millennium Falcon, she and Leia embrace over the loss of Han. However, as far as all of the fans and eventually director J.J. Abrams were concerned, Leia should have hugged Chewbacca. He and Leia had just lost someone who was vital to both their lives. But the hug still went to Rey. Abrams has since admitted the hug between the two was a mistake, and he should have had Leia embrace Chewie. His focus was on the two Force-sensitive people being able to meet and commiserate over Han's loss. So we had Chewie shift his focus to saving Finn. Given the outrage, he regretted going in that direction with the scene, and he acknowledged his mistake, which is fair enough. Hey, and at least he made amends with Rise of Skywalker, right? Number 3, Spock shouldn't have tortured Valeris in Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. While Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country isn't exactly considered to be the greatest Trek movie ever made, it remains a good entry in an inconsistent franchise. However, one scene doesn't exactly fit within the context of what is known about Vulcans though, as it involves a forced mind meld. Spock approaches Valeris and forces himself on her to extract information. It's an unusually aggressive move for a Vulcan, and was completely out of character for Spock. He did force his Katra onto McCoy in Star Trek II, but that was a last-ditch effort to save his consciousness. Under normal circumstances, Spock would never force himself onto another person like this. But he did. It was psychically violent, and plenty of fans had a major problem with the scene. Since its release, the director Nicholas Meyer has spoken about the scene and how he regretted filming it. In his words, "I find the mind meld is kind of like waterboarding to me, and it's uncomfortable to watch." While the scene did move the plot forward, it stands out as one that shouldn't have been in the final cut. Had Meyer tried another means of extracting information, Spock wouldn't have looked like such a monster, and the fans probably would have been a bit happier. Number 2, Alfred Hitchcock regretted handing a bomb to a kid in Sabotage. Alfred Hitchcock was a master of suspense, and he really knew how to drag out a scene with perfect timing to keep the audience on the edge of their seats. He did this repeatedly throughout his career, but there was one time his use of suspense resulted in a scene he wished he hadn't shot. In the 1936 film Sabotage, a young boy is handed a package as he boards a bus. He's a teenager and he has no idea what he's holding. It is, of course, a bomb, and the scene draws out for more than 5 minutes as an innocent child carries a deadly explosive through crowds of people onto a crowded bus. Of course, it takes some time before he makes his way onto the bus, but when he does, he sits beside a woman with an adorable puppy. You can guess where this is going. The bomb detonates, killing the child and everyone else on the bus. Over the years, Hitchcock spoke about the movie and this scene in particular. He regretted using the child as the instrument of destruction, even going so far as to agree with Francois Truffaut's assessment that making a child die in a picture is a rather ticklish matter. It comes close to an abuse of cinematic power. You know, he has a point. Number 1, the vines in The Evil Dead should have been omitted. Sam Raimi's first film, The Evil Dead, launched his career, and it solidified him as someone who can create a horrific film on a meager budget. Over the years, he built off his early work success, even going so far as to redo the film as simply Evil Dead years later with more money. When Evil Dead hit cinemas, it had a lot more going for it than the original. More money meant better effects, and it also shifted away from horror into the realm of of horror comedy. While much of the content of Evil Dead mirrors that of the original, one scene was significantly altered. In The Evil Dead, an infamous scene shows Cheryl being pulled in by vines from a tree. Instead of describing the graphically horrific scene though, its infamy is best summed up by calling it what it has disturbingly come to be known as: the tree rape scene. 5 years after the release of The Evil Dead, Sam Raimi said the sequence where Cheryl was sexually abused by a tree was unnecessarily gratuitous and a little too brutal. The film was banned in some countries largely over that scene, and it earned an NC-17 rating. Fortunately, the version that did make it to the remake was a bit more toned down. A wise call, all things considered. And that's our list. Know of any other hated movie scenes directors regret not cutting? Let us know all about them in the comments section below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button. Also, be sure to head on over to whatculture.com to find some more incredible articles just like the one this video is based on. I've been Gareth from whatculture.com, thank you very much for watching, and I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon.